Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell we are at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. For we have made lies our refuge, and in falsehood we have taken shelter. The New Syncretic Orthodox Bible. Jutting from eternally belching plumes of stinking corrosive smoke is the iron city of Dis, and atop its shrieking black keep is the infernal war council. There sit 7 of the greatest, most wicked, and most cunning of archdevils, each representing one of the 7 mortal sins made manifest. They are the rulers of the court of the 7-headed serpent, which oversees hell's war against creation on earth. Each is known as one of the heads of the serpent, and ultimately it is their commands that dictate all the military forces of the Great War in the service of the infernal hierarchy. In the twisted, treacherous, and ever-shifting politics, rarely even the mightiest of devils sit at the Great War Council of the court for long. Towering statues of the serpent heads representing wrath, envy, pride, gluttony, greed, sloth, and lust are erected in the iron city of Dis by slavering work gangs of yoke fiends, only to be torn down again and crushed into rubble as new devil lords rise to the pinnacle of power by trampling over their rivals. The members of the court all sit in seats that denote their prestige, and only the elected rulers may do so and hope to survive. It is said that each seat enacts a terrible punishment on any who would attempt to sit in them without proper ceremony, although no existing creature can remember the last time somebody would have been so foolish as to try. Every creature in hell stares longingly at the court, enviously working on their own plans to someday elevate themselves to such a station and take their own place in the hungry throne of gluttony, the flesh divan of lust, the golden seat of greed, the iron curule of wrath, the high cathedra of pride, the silk bed of sloth, and the black clismos of envy. The hierarchy of the court is anything but stable. Only Mammon is said to have held the position of the serpent head of greed almost without a break for the duration of the entire Great War. Other positions have seen a bewildering parade of dukes, marquises, margraves, barons and baronesses, paramounts, princes, lords and ladies and earls, and a myriad of other high nobles that make up the infernal hierarchy. This whirlwind of political glory, followed by utter ruin, is reflected as shifts of power amongst their mortal followers on Earth. The council operates on majority vote, and often at the thinnest of margins. It takes very little for an ambitious prince or princess of hell to make so many enemies that they are deposed and their wings torn, forced to start their ascent from the bottom once more, with the mockery of their rivals burning them like venom. Countless envious pretenders work against the heads of the serpent, seeking to replace them and gain the glory and prestige that comes with such a lofty position. The might of the demons also waxes and wanes based on how many mortal followers they can corrupt to their cause, and thus there is a constant change in which demon lords can don one of the 7 serpent-headed crowns. While Beelzebub is the most powerful devil lord of gluttony by far, the Lord of the Flies scorns his rightful place at the court, and wages his battle against the creation through his Black Grail instead. This leaves his seat open to the lesser fallen angels who can struggle for the honor of sitting on the hungry throne. Upon the commands of the court, the warbands of hell gather at the Hellgate and strike out to blight the unhappy world. Yoke fiends muster under the banners of their praetors and sorcerers. The shattered forms of the Hell Knights are forced into their suits of armor, and then emerge from their fiery tombs where their bodies are kept crushed under mighty ever-turning slabs of black basalt while they are not serving in the war effort. Desecrated Saints are brought forth to act as unholy war altars that pollute and pervert the land over which they travel. Ahead of the warbands fly pit locusts, the clatter of their wings heralding the coming of the court, and their poison stings leaving burns that cannot be healed. And sometimes, when the deathly omens on hell's burning skies and black stars are favourable, A hunter of the left-hand path will join a warband as they strike out of the mouth of hell. As the warband marches to join the Great War, joyous and triumphant music played by unseen hands can be heard at these times, for taking part in one of the hunts is seen as a great privilege within the shoal. And before them all, driven by the yoke fiends and crying out for freedom from their damnation, the Wretched, these humans still live, and will do anything to attain their freedom, as pathetic as they are, for it is their suffering that powers the goetic magic of their masters. When the gate of hell was opened by the ultimate heresy of the Templars, it was the warbands of the court that poured out and took the Levant by storm, long before the first heretic legion was ever formed. They fell upon the people of Middle East, Asia, and Europa. They crushed the mortal armies sent against them like fire burning dry chaff. Only at Antioch and at the Iron Wall were they eventually checked, though at a terrible cost. Meanwhile, awed even by the least of Hell's servants, countless men and women fell to their knees at the sight of the dark splendour of the court, and they worshipped them as gods. Those with truly wicked hearts were spared, and they became the first heretics. Eventually, their numbers would swell into the millions, who now fill the teeming cities and domains under the shadow of the Hellgate. Being both of the material world and of the world of the spirit, the court's foot soldiers can march to make war on earth without fear of divine retribution, as they do not break the covenant of hell. The court also carefully limits the size of these warbands, so that most of the suffering and dying of the Great War is done by mortals, both to spite the god tyrant Yahweh, but also to enhance their own power. As more humans are corrupted and die in the rebellion, the more God's plan is disturbed, and the greater the power of the devils waxes. The mission of the court against the faithful do not follow the same logic as one a mortal commander might have. A mighty praetor could strike at a military insignificant village, only to kill a newborn future saint, betray their own mortal followers by suddenly falling upon some unsuspecting heretic settlement, or even clash with a warband of a rival head of the Serpent. The wise do not question the motives of Hell's rage, and heretics accept these occasional attacks against their forces as a fitting judgment for their lack of success in the war against the faithful. Praetors are demonic commanders and magistrates within a small corner of a fiefdom of a mighty archdevil or demon lord. Each commands small cohorts at their liege's behest, raised from the denizens within the ever-shifting domains of hell. Yoke devils muster at their commands, and hell knights bound to blind obedience bend their knee to these field commanders of hell. Those mortals who have seen a praetor and lived to tell the tale often believe they have seen the very devil himself, but that is not so. In truth, praetors are twisted bastard offspring of a beast, such as a hyena or a jackal, and a devil, granting each praetor demonic cunning and bestial strength. However, due to its lowly mortal blood, it is not able to attain the important command positions, unless they show great strategic acumen or cruelty over long periods of service. Being a descendant of celestial beings, no matter how fallen and tarnished, each praetor is a mighty being, towering over lesser creatures. They are born with 4 faces, matching the features of their angelic progenitors. The human-like face of each praetor is then ripped away at birth by midwives of Lilith, both to scorn their divine heritage and to mock the Trinity, leaving them with 3 faces, each capable of independent thought and speech. Their 3 mouths weave a web of lies and hypnotic magic through their 3 voices that can speak of the same subject simultaneously, subtly twisting and corrupting its words as it makes false promises to those the praetor wishes to lead into ruin. Their wings carry the likeness of their bestial broodmothers, with fanged mouths that vomit gore whenever human blood is spilled in the name of the praetor. Such blood can then be used to power the goetic magic it uses. Despite their lowborn status in Hell's hierarchy, praetors are very useful to their masters. As they are partly born as creatures of the natural order, they can sneak into the mortal realm without breaking the covenant of hell which binds each rebel seraphim. Thus, they can lead the great hunting parties of the court to plague Earth without triggering a direct confrontation with heaven. Thus, course warbands are most often led by one of these blasphemous cambions as they hunt for their lord's enemies, desecrate holy places, or seek to recover ancient relics from the time of the First Rebellion when fallen angels reigned on Earth like burning stars. Some praetors are great warriors, trained in the esoteric fighting pits of the Iron City of Dis, while others are schooled in the goetic arts in the mighty sorcerers' basalt towers. This makes them very versatile and dangerous opponents, even though they can be slain in combat as part of their essence is tied to mortal flesh. Thus, even though praetors are treated with disrespect by the devils and lords who make up the court, oftentimes they are gifted powerful weapons, talismans, or armour so that they can carry out their duties. In battle, they wield ancient swords, wicked barbed polearms, or storied hunting rifles which are not subject to the laws of physics and time that Yahweh has set. Strange artifacts and relics grant them terrible powers which amplify their goetic magic. If praetors succeed in their tasks, they are sometimes granted boons from their lords, further enhancing their capabilities. If they fail, however, they will be given into the hands of those the praetor has delivered into the withering hellfire, or even worse, turned into hell knights, their form crushed, broken and shunted into the black armoured suits, where their broken bodies must then serve other praetors. Some few are said to have performed some great deed in service of Inferno, and are rewarded with dark apotheosis. Such a victorious praetor will have the mortal aspects of their being shorn off from their bodies with pincers of iron, leaving only a pure demonic creature that can finally assume its rightful place in the ranks of the infernal nobility, and join the court of the seven-headed serpent as a full-fledged aristocrat of hell. Atop tall towers clawing against the black sky of hell, the sorcerers of the court of the seven-headed serpent perform rituals and spells to advance the schemes and machinations of their lords. They meditate in the scrying chambers, and the eerie sound of their insane chanting echoes throughout their lord's fiefdom. It is their ululating cries that summon their lord's warbands into battle. A mighty devil lord might have thousands of sorcerers under their command. Each is formed from a tiny sliver of a fallen angel that shattered after being cast out of heaven. Not truly dead or alive, they exist at the exact moment when their original divine life ended. They have lost all their original seraphic gifts their original whole form once had, but thanks to their celestial origins, no matter how fallen and diminished, they possess the potential for channeling great power, acting as conduits of magic. The sorcerers study their secret spells of destruction and manipulation from ancient tablets found atop the many-peaked and unsettling mountains of hell. For just as Yahweh gave his laws atop of the holy mountain, so does hell provide its power to its dark arts from the pinnacles. To find the tablets, the sorcerers use blind augurs and soothsayers who wandered too far to seek enlightenment and found damnation instead. After listening to the clues of their diviners, sorcerers study the ancient lore and ever-shifting maps of hell that fills their blasphemous libraries. When the time and place is discerned, a great expedition is mounted to discover one of these priceless tablets. It may take decades or centuries or even millennia to find the tablet, for time in hell flows in uneven waves shifting back and forth, and the wilds of hell are ever-changing and filled with many strange and deadly creatures. When the expedition reaches the appointed mountain, the sorcerer must climb to the top alone. The mountain's crown is ringed with standing stones that hum with a coiled power, and above the stones a great pillar of smoke hangs like an abscess in the sky, and fell voices whisper from it. The sorcerers enter the ring, praying to his dark master that he will return with the prized tablet. Then the presence in the smoke judges them. Most are found unworthy, and the tablet melts their body over 7 years, draining its tarnished divinity to enhance the spells described on the tablet for a more worthy sorcerer to find. In the rare cases of a sorcerer returning with one of the tablets, Armies of demon scribes must translate and decipher what it does. Oftentimes the results are catastrophic. It is not uncommon for one of the Devil Lord's keeps and its surrounding fiefdom to become completely annihilated by the power found in these tablets, but some are successful, and a sorcerer becomes a mighty master of goetic spells of the tablet. Their spells powered by the suffering of wretched mortals that the court buys from Hell's markets, or acquires as tithe from their mortal followers. Each sorcerer specializes in a school of one of the 7 deadly sins. Sorcerers also come in many forms, and manipulate their own bodies to better cast the mighty spells that they are charged with. Some will have many arms, and others multiple heads, or countless alterations and terrible improvements, some self-administered, while others will be forced upon them, based on the whims of their archdevil and the cabal of high sorcerers who lead their goetic strategy. Sorcerers' feet do not touch the ground, a distant echo of their angelic past, but instead they float across the battlefields of no man's land, chanting the cruel gospel of hell as they advance. Their dark wisdom and cunning makes them equally capable of leading one of the court's warbands, or acting as advisors to one of the nobles of the court as they stride forth into the mortal realms. Desecrated Saints are the most prized possessions of the Lords of Hell, men and women who once were destined to become saints, great prophets, or holy ones according to God's plan, but who were led astray and fell from grace. Many of them were once righteous rulers or religious leaders, dedicated to bringing prosperity and glory to their people, but pride, desperation, or an eagerness to achieve martyrdom led them to commit some indelible sin or evil, often for the motives that they believed to be good and pure. Some sacrificed living humans, thinking it was what was demanded of them. Others carried on wars after they were commanded to stop, or sought to do miracles through magic. When their deeds led to their downfall and death, they were entombed inside unholy reliquaries, only to wake in hell, still encased in the shrine that had now become their prison. Desecrated Saints are kept as a symbol of pride by the mighty Devil Lord who corrupted them. The body of the reliquary is made up of the saints' retinue in life, as well as the greatest vanquished foes, which are continually added to it over the eons of its existence. The husks of these devout, who swore to follow their holy leaders to death and beyond, formed the towering body of this abomination. Their remains, along with their armour and weapons, are tarnished and corrupted, and fused together over the long millennia into a walking prison within which the desecrated saint remains conscious in death, to witness the never-ending fall and cost of their folly. The secretion of corpses, weapons, and relics is a testament to the power of the Devil Lords that control it, and there is a fierce competition between the archdevils to see whose desecrated saint displays the greatest splendour and prestige. As this walking blasphemous tabernacle vanquishes champions of Yahweh over its eternal existence, it collects their shields and bucklers to hang about its body, a mockery of the Tower of David with its 1,000 bucklers. When the court travels to either make war or hunt, this blasphemous tabernacle often goes with them, both as a terrifying battle standard, but also as a potent weapon of war. Due to the deviation of the saint's mission to the service of evil, a dark aura surrounds it. Within this area, the laws of God are perverted or cease to exist. Down is up, strength is weakness, and the strongest of shields and armour are as brittle as glass. In battle, it wields a variety of once holy weapons and debased relics, bringing the very power of hell on earth in a way that not even the mightiest mortal heretic ever could. The hunters of the court of the seven-headed serpent are followers of the left-hand path. They stalk the primordial hinterlands of hell, where they hunt terrifying beasts and perform vile magics and auguries using the innards of their still-living prey to discern portents and omens. They follow the hidden paths, the secret ley lines that connect the eons-old shrines and ruins that still endure in the cancerous, tortured wilds of hell. The hunters haunt the remnants of kingdoms, the sites of ancient battles and the places of legend long forgotten by the scribes and cartographers of hell. In solitary rituals, the hunter makes appalling oblations before these forgotten shrines, genuflecting and making obeisance to enigmatic beings of awesome power whose names even the archdevils have forgotten. To arm themselves, the hunters perform strange rites upon their left arm, driving into it nails of infernal iron forged in the foundries of the city of Pandemonium. Their left arm grows into wicked shapes, often taking the form of powerful hunting bows that fire arrows made from the hunter's own diseased blood. Such darts can be used for many purposes, killing their prey outright, paralyzing them, or causing them to see visions of their own demise. They wear the pale skins of the stargazing oracle beasts that wander the burning plains of hell in great herds. The eyes of the oracles are alive even after their death, and they watch out for their new master that wears their skin as a cloak. When called to war on Earth, the Devil Lords can really only hope the hunter answers to their summons, as the hunters do not always listen. They prefer the solitude of the wilds of hell, where they can ruminate upon its vile majesty and consider the orders from the princes of hell as suggestions at best. When one can be persuaded to join the hunt of the court on Earth, they can traverse the paths of no man's land just as easily as the waits of hell, for the ley lines of hell are reflected upon the fallen creation, allowing the hunter to move unerringly through any terrain, find perfect ambush spots, and disappear into the shadowy spaces where the barriers between worlds are weak. They are experts at hunting and capturing mortal prey and bringing them to the nobles of the hunt, or causing indescribable pain on humans that can be used to power the greatest of goetic spells. In such hunts, they can carry a tormentor chain as their other weapon of choice, a wicked hook with a barbed chain that extends and twists upon contact with flesh, capturing their target and ravaging them with pain, yet rarely killing them. The hunter mocks the fate of its prey while dragging it to slavery in the court, to be used as playthings whose pain and suffering elevates the infernal magic of their new masters. The silent battalions of hell, summoned to serve when the court of the seven-headed serpent seeks sport, are composed of hell knights. Their ever-burning banners stream as they march to war, carrying out the bidding of their masters. They are the bannerets of the High Lords of the court, champions who respond to foolish mortals daring to challenge the hunting parties of the serpent's nobility, who embark on hunting excursions through the gate for their amusement. Heretic priests whisper that these infernal warriors were once lesser fallen angels or mighty mortal champions elevated into devilhood, but then cursed by their liege lords for some slight, real or imagined. Cast out from the burning palaces of the pit, the alabaster architecture of their bodies is now bound, twisted and folded upon itself 1,000 times, and encased in a tomb of their once splendid armour that is now their eternal prison. It is said that to glimpse upon the bodies inside is to gaze upon the sheer horror of divine flesh warped with glaring eyes of light, mouths uttering blasphemies, and pulsating inner organs that gibber and shriek, crushed into a space barely 1/10 of their original form. Despite a reduction in stature, they retained their inordinate pride, and they brook no insolence from the wretched mortals that serve them. Once party to the secrets of creation, now their minds are clouded with endless blood-red waking dreams. Their thoughts are crushed to a singular, jagged prism of murderous obsession. Their form tormented by the cold of the earthly realm they are forced to endure, just as humans must suffer in the flames of hell. They are mighty still, but less than nothing compared to the exalted glory of their original forms. Even so, next to a mortal soldier, they are terrifying and implacable foes. They wield ancient and wicked weapons such as great swords, battle axes, and arquebuses, forged by the household smiths deep in the bowels of their demon lord's keep. Though the appearance of such armaments is archaic to mortals, they are easily a match for even the most advanced firearms from the foundries of New Antioch or the laboratories of the House of Wisdom. On their helmets they carry the seal of the great demon spirit that they serve, or the mark of their patron member of the court. and about them float eerie corpse candles that act as conduits to goetic magic. Yoke Fiends are the twisted stillbirths of cursed devils, 1,000 generations growing ever more debased and feeble, and crossbred with beasts of the field by the sadistic infernal biopriests. These least of all the demonkin are kept in servitude until even after the stars go out. Lacking intelligence, tortured by their own perverse existence, and filled with malice, they are fit for nothing but the crudest of tasks. In the innermost chamber of their black heart remains a tiniest polluted shard of divinity, the cruel legacy of their once angelic forefathers. This dim knowledge and the repulsive fallen state fills the Yoke Fiends with unending hatred and envy towards any untouched part of the creation. Throughout the endless plains of hell, Yoke Fiends keep the great boiling cauldrons constantly lit, feeding the fires with the damned. They gleefully throw the endlessly shrieking souls into the boiling vats of pitch, the torment of others being the sole consolation of their miserable existence. In work gangs a million strong in the vast quarries, the Yoke Fiends cut the ubiquitous black stone with which they can erect great keeps, ziggurats and towers of hell, monuments glorifying their own bitter enslavement. Yoke Fiends torment the leagues-long columns of the still-living damned as they march into the lake of fire, whipping them incessantly with scourges fashioned from the nerve bundles of still-conscious victims. This colossal human suffering in turn powers the goetic magic of the archdevils and their mortal servants, as it disturbs God's plan for the universe. When called to war, the bellows of these brutal creatures shake the very foundations of their lord's manse. They are given simple but wicked weapons, and they delight in the pain they inflict with them. Axes, spiked clubs, curving hooks, pitchforks, and even simple firearms loaded with shot of infernal iron are given to these monstrous creatures. A Yoke Fiend stands some 7 to 8 feet tall, with layers of shivering fat and muscle branded by their masters and carved by the knives of the hell priests to mark them as property of the greater demons. They exhibit bestial features such as horns, hooves, ape-like limbs, and immensely dense bones. They hate seeing their own reflections, as in their heart of hearts, they know the beauty and glory that they have lost for all eternity. When the court of the seven-headed serpent hunts on earth, a great pall of smoke precedes them, and lo, out of the smoke, the baying and buzzing of the pit locusts heralds man's doom. Some tales say they were sealed behind the filth-encrusted bronze gate for eons beyond measure, waiting until the key that opens the bottomless pit was turned in its lock. Others say they are the eroded remnants of once proud angels, lesser Isham that debase themselves at the sacrificial altars to Baal or Moloch, and gorge themselves on the blood of children offered to the graven images. In their bloodlust they forgot that hidden deep knowledge of the universe was their birthright. They haunted the deep and dark places of the earth, until they were called forth by the great battle horns of hell. What is known for sure is that when the gate of hell opened, terrifying swarms of pit locusts appeared. They delight in tormenting mankind, and are imbued with feral cunning and wicked bloodlust. In the first battles of the Great War, which saw the Levant overrun in a string of great victories, the pit locusts were instrumental in scattering the formations of the humans who refused to bend the knee to the nobles of hell. Driven by their insatiable thirst for flesh and suffering, swarms of pit locusts committed countless massacres, falling on refugee columns that were desperately trying to make their way out of the Levant, killing anyone they came across. Nothing could survive their hunger, and even the beasts in the field were slaughtered. As a reward for their part in the battles, the pit locusts were granted the right to hunt with the court of the seven-headed serpent, and take their share of the spoils, and to gorge themselves upon the vanquished. Before most warbands, the whips of the Yoke Fiends drive living human slave soldiers of the court, known as the Wretched. These unfortunate souls possess not a drop of demonic blood, and they act as disposable shock troops, or are to be used as subjects of the torture to power the goetic magic of the sorcerers and other users of the dark arts. Captured during one of the hunts of the court, sold to the devils at the heretic domains, or having the misfortune of having foolishly pushed through in places where the borders of the worlds are thin, their minds are scarred by witnessing the horror of damnation while still alive. Willing to do anything to escape their fate 1,000,000 times worse than death, they grasp at the thinnest of straws. Should a wretch bring down a mighty opponent, the law of hell is clear. The mortal will gain its freedom, in memory and honour of the first rebellion, when there was war in heaven, and blood of the angels painted the firmament red.